Good afternoon and welcome to this review, as the thumbnail has already revealed, for Up at the Villa by W Somerset Maugham. W Somerset Maugham was in fact William Somerset Maugham, a very well-known English author and playwright who was born in 1874, died in 1965, and was apparently one of the best-selling authors and playwrights of his generation. Up at the Villa is a later work on his part. I'm pretty sure it was written or published 1940 or 1941. Yes, copyright 1940. And it was a commission piece. There was a New York editor of a specific magazine who commissioned it, and that editor was so shocked by its contents that it never actually appeared in the magazine where it was meant to be serialized. I don't feel like too many people in this day and age are going to be considerably shocked by the contents of this book, at least not in the way said editor was. There is another element that he probably never even raised an eyebrow about that may be found a bit shocking in this day and era. Okay, so the cover design is by Birdsall. Birdsall? That's an interesting name. Birdsall Peccinotti. I believe it's a bit hard to read. It's that little red blur down there. Actually, can I read it on screen? Probably easier to read on screen. I'll post the name below. And it's pretty good. This is a 70s edition of The Penguin. This short story or novella, it's occasionally referred to as a novel, but it is pretty short. Looks very much of its age. So what is Up at the Villa about? Well, we start with 30-year-old Mary Panton, who in 1930 is newly widowed, and she's living in a villa just above Florence, which has been loaned to her by her friends, where she can recuperate, regroup, grow into herself, if you will, after having lost her husband under unpleasant circumstances. And the husband in question was a gambler and a bit of a wastrel, so she also lost her fortune. Not that it was hers, it was his, and is now, if not destitute, at least destined to live off reduced earnings. Mary Panton, we discover, is anticipating a proposal of marriage from Edgar, is it Flint? I think it's Flint. Edgar something. And he is Edgar Swift. And at the beginning we learn that they have known each other for a very long time. He was actually one of her father's friends. And he does indeed come to the villa, propose marriage. He has to go up to Milan. She asks for 3 days to think about it. It's not a no, it's not a yes, she's not quite sure. She isn't desperately in love with him as she was with her first husband, but there's the question of whether being desperately in love has worked terribly well as a marriage proposition. So she is seriously considering it. That night, she goes to dinner with the princess, an American woman who married a maybe Italian prince, at a restaurant, and she meets up with this young guy who is a complete wastrel. What is his name? I've forgotten his name as well. And there's a bit of conversation. And the reason that restaurant is because the princess wants them to hear a particular musician who's playing there. Now, at the restaurant that night, a violinist plays. He isn't a very good violinist, but Mary feels sorry for him because he looks very shabby and a bit bedraggled. Okay, so up to this point, which is about so far through the story, novella, whatever, it's really very enjoyable. Oh, but the rake at the dinner, by the way, is called Rowley. All of this part I really enjoyed. I liked the narrative style. It's well written. There's a sense of contentment in the reading, in that it is descriptive. The setting of Florence particularly was excellent. The inner life of Mary and where she's coming from, the other people, it's all quite beautifully written. So Somerset Maugham is described as having the strength of the POV of observation. His point of view for his stories has always apparently been astronomical. It was unique and specialised for his first novel, but he travelled all the way around the world. Actually, reading a biography of Somerset Maugham would probably be fascinating. He travelled all over the world, West Indies, China, Asia as we know it today. Altogether, the settings and the backgrounds of his stories, Polynesia as well. So right about the time when he's describing all this, I was thoroughly engaged. I thought the writing was clear, it was compelling. The narrative was good. It's described as a conservative writing style, but I've got no problem with the conservative writing style, and I was enjoying it significantly to a point. Now, what happens next is that Mary picks up the musician, the violinist who is at the restaurant. She picks him up on the way back to the villa, and there's some really beautiful scenes as she shows him around. He's heard about the frescoes and she shows them to him. He tells his backstory. He's an Austrian and he was a revolutionary in that he was opposing Hitler's takeover of Austria, the autarky? Can't remember the word. Sorry. Bad memory. And as a result, he was put into a concentration camp. Many of his fellow revolutionaries were shot out of hand. He's managed to escape and he's fled to Italy with no papers. He is a refugee, and an illegal refugee at that. If he's caught by the authorities, it seems pretty likely that he will be exported back to the Nazi territories, and that is not going to end well for him. Mary and him have this little tete-a-tete at midnight because it's quite late by the time they get home. They talk, they bond, and eventually they go to bed together. At that point, things goes seriously spare as Mary's intentions are misunderstood by this guy. An unpleasant incident for Mary eventuates from this, and then it gets worse when the young man shoots himself in her bedroom. Now, everything from around about here upward is probably what seemed so shocking to the New York editor in the 40s. Everything that happened from here onward to me seemed unshocking and farcical. Instead of doing a sensible thing, Mary sends away her servants who heard the shot and say nothing happened. She rings up Rowley, who we know is a rake and a bad guy in general, and asks him to help her move the corpse. They drag it off to somewhere, they dump it. Lots of bad things ensue, and I didn't enjoy any of them. I'm not going to deny for a second that they're well written if you like that sort of thing, and I imagine that many people will probably find them very amusing, but I found them unlikely and quite farcical. The repeated bad decision making on the part of Mary made no sense. From that point onward, she made not a single good decision that I could tell, and the reasons for her bad decision making was so farcical that I couldn't enjoy the narrative, I couldn't enjoy the writing style. The plot was just completely nonsensical. Now, I don't mind farce if it's intended to be a farce, and even sometimes farcical books that are farcical without intending to be can be funny. But this was just embarrassingly grim. I didn't enjoy any of it. So it wasn't quite a DNF. I did finish it, but only because it was really short, and there was skim reading. I'm not going to lie, because once this parody of body moving and stuff started, it became dull, it became dreary, and I just didn't care. It was sad because I really enjoyed the early part. Now, Maugham is known for having a really, really good ability to have psychological insight into his characters and situations, and a depth of human emotion that has made his stories famous. I don't know. If you like Somerset Maugham, by all means tell me what I'm doing wrong here. This isn't considered one of his greater ones. And I will admit that I bought it because it was there and because it was in this beautiful little penguin. And I wanted to dabble with W Somerset Maugham. I have been trying to read him for years. I have tried a couple of other ones in the past. The Razor's Edge is still on that bookshelf right over there that you can't see, and I didn't bond with that one either. I want to be able to read classical books. I want to be able to read the greats, but if it's unenjoyable, I'm not going to, and I didn't enjoy this at all. So, oh yeah, there was an ending. It was serviceable. It was unexciting, unsurprising, and again, rather farcical. It's like one of those plays that they loved so much in the 60s where you had one stage, one double bed, and 15 doors with about 30 people going in and out of the doors and in and out of the bed. It felt like that, only without the bed. Okay. So the hiding of the body, oh, ouch, just ouch. The idiotical farce from then on really ruined it for me. Now, what would a modern reader find shocking? Okay, so I mentioned that at the beginning, Mary, who is a really interesting character, she's described as pleasant, sweet, a lovely woman who genuinely loved her first husband, Matthew, even though he was wasn't the greatest husband. Her depth of attachment to him and the reason she stayed and their life together, that shows all the psychology that Somerset Maugham is known for. And that's early in the plot, before the guy kills himself. Now, this marriage proposal that she receives from Edgar Swift, that she was half anticipating would come forth when he came up to the villa. I'm going to read a section from page 7. When she was 19, her mother had said to her, "I wouldn't see too much of Edgar if I were you, darling. I don't know if you have noticed it, but he's in love with you." Mary laughed. "He's an old man." "He's 43, her mother answered tartly. So a 19-year-old girl being pursued by a 43-year-old man, who at other points in the book is described as having been in love with her since she was 15 or 16. That is the part that some modern readers are going to have a lot of issues with. I've heard people with age gap similar get called pedophiles, and it's going to be hard for a modern reader who's grown up with modern age gap concepts to understand that 19 to 40 would not have been an exceptional age gap in the 1940s when this was written. And in the 1800s, when W Somerset Maugham was born, it would have been not even worth remarking upon. So, that's up at the villa. I'll probably keep this book for a while. Maybe one day I'll be in just that right mood where I can sort of slide into this farcical narrative and actually enjoy it for its writing and its psychological details. I'm not holding my breath on that one, but maybe. If you love W Somerset Maugham and his writing, I don't blame you one bit. I'm, again, not saying this is a bad book, and I'm certainly not saying it's bad writing. I'm just saying that I thought it was farcical and I didn't enjoy it. If you love this author, if you think he's great, and many people do, by all means, tell me which book it is that I should be reading that so far the joy has escaped me so completely. Let me know in the comments. I don't promise to buy that book and read it, but I will at least consider it if I see it, and stop randomly trying books that aren't that good for me. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Have a great afternoon. Read good books.